Well Tempered, your wellbeing podcast with Daniel Home. Hello and welcome to Well Tempered. My name is Daniel Home and I'm so happy that you're listening to the second episode of Well Tempered. 2 weeks ago I released the first episode focused around positive emotion, and I'm so happy and still a bit overwhelmed about all the positive feedback I received. So many of you get in touch with me, my friends back in Germany, my friends over here, but also people I didn't know, which I'm really grateful for. Now, going forward with the podcast, I want to ask for your support. Obviously, this is a small project of mine, but I'm trying to reach out to as many people as possible, especially music students who might find this very useful. So if you're one of those, or you know friends who might be interested, please share the podcast. And also I set up a page on Instagram and Facebook, also called Well Tempered, to just share about the podcast. And if you're on those platforms, please give me a follow, like the content, and leave a comment so more people can see this. Now, if you listened to the first episode, you know we mentioned the PERMA model by Martin Seligman, which is a model for well-being. Let me just explain the principles if you're new. Martin Seligman is a famous American psychologist, and he developed this model to describe well-being. It's got 5 categories for well-being: P, positive emotions; E, engagement; R, relationships; M, meaning; and A, accomplishment, which makes PERMA. And as we featured positive emotion in the first episode, now it's time for engagement. Now, the concept of engagement it doesn't ring a bell the same way positive emotion does. Now, I think the easiest way to think about engagement is if you start from the verb to engage with something. So there's an activity and you do this activity in a certain way that you feel engaged. Seligman himself says that engagement is being one with the music. Obviously nice to have the music metaphor here, but especially as performing artists, we know the feeling of being fully submerged in the performance, in the task we do. So in popular psychology, this is famous under the term of flow. And we mean exactly this by flow. We kind of lose track of place and time when we're doing something because we're just completely absorbed in what we're doing. Now, we know that flow can only happen when the balance between challenge and skill is right. So either if the challenge is too big, we struggle, but also if the challenge is too low compared to the skills we have. Let me give you an example. So as most musicians do, I have to practice technical exercises on my instrument. And at first that can seem boring. What does boring mean? It doesn't feel challenging, but I feel that I'm completely mastering the exercise. Now, what can we do about it to make it more engaging for me? The easiest way is to set the challenge higher. So instead of just doing this exercise, if you focus on fully getting the same smooth or tongued articulation for brass players, or you focus on extreme dynamics or whatever musical detail, and you try to do it as good as you possibly can, this is obviously really hard, and that way we can engage more with the activity. On the other hand, for me, doing this project and recording a new episode feels quite overwhelming. It's a big project, and I'm just about to figure out how to do it. So it feels really, really challenging, and it doesn't feel like I know what I'm doing. So what can we do about that? If it's a big task, usually breaking it up into smaller ones helps. So I structure this episode, and I know which date I record the interview, etc. And that just breaks it down and makes it easier. And as a result, I feel more engaged in doing it. And well, now as I'm recording this, I feel quite confident and happy. Now, there's another interesting concept linked to engagement, which is the one of character strengths. There are 24 universal character strengths, and they're a bit like a fingerprint and show what you feel good doing. Now, let me give you an example. My top 5 character strengths are fairness, leadership, love of learning, judgment, and bravery. And those are activities linked to those will feel good to me, and I find it easier to engage. And that's the link to engagement. So if we use those strengths, we will feel more engaged. Now, you can go to viacharacter.org and do the free survey yourself. I find it quite interesting to just find out about my most developed strengths, and just thinking about how I use them in my everyday life. They also have a file that gives you tasks in order to build those character strengths more into your daily routine, which is also helpful, I think. As in the last episode, I've also got a fantastic interview to share with you, and this time it's not one of the lecturers, it's one of my fellow students here at the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester. I'm now with Emilio Yáñez Ruíz, who is one of my fellow students here. He's a composer from Mexico City, and this academic year he's the SU's welfare officer, and he's also co-founder, and he leads the Meditation and Yoga Society. Welcome, Emilio.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for having me today.
I'm very excited for this, and as I do with everyone, I asked you to bring a piece of music with you. I guess it's one of your own because you're a composer.
That is true. Yeah, this is a piece I wrote in my first year. It's called The High Priestess. It's a percussion trio, so it's 2 vibraphones and a glockenspiel. And it's a meditation piece that conveys the energy of the High Priestess, which is the second major arcana of the tarot.
Fascinating. Let's listen into this, and I'll put the full recording at the end of the interview. Great. So I mentioned you're from Mexico City. Do you just want to tell us about how you grew up, what kind of background you're from, and why you decided to come here?
Of course. So yeah, I was born in Mexico City, and my family is not musical, but my father is. My father is he plays guitar and he sings. He's self-taught, and through him, I found like a passion for music and different genres, Latin American music, also some rock and roll, some Beatles. He's a big Beatles fan, so I grew up listening to different styles of music, and I wanted to play the drums when I was a child. So I started my musical journey playing drums, and I'm composer now, but I'm also a percussionist, so that never stopped. I was always tapping around in tabletops or at school. So after playing drums, I joined the jazz band in high school. So when I was age 15, and I was playing the Latin percussion there, the congas, and that's when I knew I wanted to study music. Just making music with my friends, and it was an option as a career. So I said, like, this is what I enjoy the most. So I started studying music for 4 years in a private school, a small school, where I learned like basic composition and some good music theory and some music production. And then after those 4 years, I realized that really what I wanted to do was composing, so composition. So I started putting together a portfolio, and I wanted to study abroad. It needed to be somewhere that speak either Spanish or English, because that's what I speak. So I started looking for universities and conservatoires, and I found the RNCM as one of my options. And a fellow Mexican student here, a bass player in the pop course, he started studying a year before me, and he just told me that it was a great place, and so I decided to come here. And I put together my portfolio. I got accepted. I got a scholarship. So I think that's just why I decided to come here. Like all the schools were accepting me but not offering a scholarship, or things weren't just falling into place, and everything fell into place for me to come to RNCM. So our application was in 2019, and then we got accepted. And then COVID happened in 2020, so everything fell into place, and then everything fell apart, I guess.
So yeah, exactly. So when you started, there was nothing going on here, was it?
No, people were told that they weren't allowed in the building. In my case, there were no visas running at that time.
Oh no! So you couldn't even get here?
I couldn't even get here. So I was stuck in Mexico. Good place to be stuck, I must say.
That's true.
It's sunny, it's nice, there's good food. And I was just living with my parents then, so I was stuck at home. But I was studying abroad at the same time, 6 hours difference. So when it was 9 a.m. lectures, I was at 3 a.m. On Zoom, just there with my blanket.
Oh God!
Having lessons. And yeah, it was a difficult time, but it was good. It was good for my willpower to just know what I was doing and what I wanted to do, which is study and do my best. Then waking up at midnight, going to bed at 4 p.m. Yeah.
Do you just want to explain a bit further how the whole COVID situation here was? Because I joined in 2021 and it was pretty much all in person then, and there might be a lot of people listening who actually don't know anything about RNCM COVID situation.
Right, I thought you started in 2022. In 2020 as well.
No, I came a year later.
A year later.
Quite lucky.
Yeah, no, definitely. Right, so yeah, 2020. College wasn't allowed to have people inside. I think just a few instruments were allowed to have one-to-one lessons, including, for example, the brass and winds in the practice rooms with a glass screen in between. But composition, it just made sense to be online. So composers weren't allowed, even the people who were living in Manchester at that time. But anyway, I was living in Mexico. So I was having all my lectures online, and we were having all the cohort lectures were online, the one-to-one lessons, and well, there were no performance opportunities back then. It was all online opportunities. It was putting together a video or putting together a recording with everyone in their homes. I was part of that. I was composing for people to then record something and someone else recorded on top, someone else recorded on top. So actually that piece that we just heard, the High Priestess, I did it all myself. I don't have a
Brilliant.
microphone. So I composed it on a MIDI keyboard.
No way.
And it only got premiered. This recording is from 2022.
I see.
Yeah, 2022, and it was a performance in a composers concert. So we started having these concerts, so then we could showcase the music we've been writing. Yeah.
Yeah, those are fantastic. I've been playing in a couple of those, and it's just great to see so much music coming out of your department.
Yeah.
So when did you then finally move to Manchester?
Of course. So, yeah, the first year, I think it was 9 months online. 9 months online.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's hard.
It was hard. And as I said, like keeping that thing of moving my time schedule, I am going to bed at 4, waking up at midnight. That was the toughest part. And I couldn't manage the whole time. Like the 9 months, I didn't do that for the 9 months. It was always, like I think I did 4 months straight and then on and off. After the holidays started coming, it didn't make sense for me to still be living in the nighttime, you know? So
Yeah.
going back to college and then having every now and then mid-recess week, mid-year recess and reading weeks, that always messed up my schedule. So 9 months of that. And then in May, towards May, I was getting ready to now come. I had my visa, and I had part of my portfolio ready, but actually I deferred my personal portfolio that year. It just made sense because the submission was in May, like 20th of May. So I just spoke to the head of school then, who was Adam Gorb, and I told him, hey, I'm gonna move now, and of course this isn't the easiest situation. I have to basically pack my life in 2 suitcases and go over there, and also quarantine, and then live in a hotel for the first 10 days and then move into somewhere. So it wasn't the easiest conditions. So I said, how about I submit later? And it was good because I just couldn't focus on writing in that time. I was just sorting things out. So in May the 7th, I remember that. May the 7th, I was landing in Manchester, and it was a sunny day that day. So I was well received by some friends. I had to go straight into quarantine for 10 days in a hotel that had its own kitchen, so then I didn't have to be buying prepared food every day. And then after those 10 days, I moved into an Airbnb for 2 months, so for the last 2 months of term. But it was good. The decision of when to come, because we kept pushing the deadline. Well, not the deadline, just the date of moving back and back. He was like, is it the time? No. Is it the time? Not yet.
That's horrible.
So the final decision to finally come was because in first year, composers have a collaboration opportunity with choreographers from the Northern Ballet School, which is just down the road. And we created pieces for a choreographer to put together a routine. Originally it was going to be solo because it was COVID, but then they were allowed, I think, a quartet. So they were 4 dancers dancing to our pieces. And again, the head of school, we had a chat one day, and he was telling me, okay, the performance is going to be live and it's going to be on this date. Are you going to be here or are you going to be online? And I think that's when I just had a good chat with my parents, and I was telling them things are starting to open up. They need me there because I was going to perform my own piece. And this is the time, like we can continue to push it back and back, but if we do this, I'm not gonna be there until second year, so this is the time. So that's when we decided. So for me to be here for that performance, so that was the first thing I did. I had to get a cajon, which is my percussion instrument. I didn't travel with it, so I needed to quarantine for 10 days, then get a cajon in like 5 days or something, and then the performance.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty tough. Would you, even for me starting here when it was just all pretty much lifted in autumn 2021 was tough. So it must have been really, really challenging. Would you say that was the kind of most challenging time of how long you've been a student here?
I thought it was. I thought it was. I guess of course it was, but I've had challenges in different ways now. I think the external barriers back then were the most challenging. So literally living in a different time, not being able to connect with people, spending most of my time alone in the nighttime or then in the early mornings, having to be quiet at my home, and like not having what I've been wanting for so long. So I was finally accepted, I was finally studying, but guess what, you can't go. So the external barriers were tough, but then my inner drive, my motivation, my motivation was at its peak, I think, because it was just the beginning. It was just starting the adventure, and I could only control so much because everything around me was either blocked or falling apart. So I was really connected to my inner drive back then, doing lots of meditation, doing lots of yoga, and connecting with nature and connecting with my own practices of just keeping myself sane, I would say. And then once I was here, the challenges started to become internal, so keeping that drive alive. I think that, now that I've said that, the biggest challenges during my RNCM time is like keeping the drive alive, because then the external barriers were less prominent, less difficult, but then it was about me finding the motivation to keep going with that same power. Not every time I've managed to keep it going. Yeah,
it is really hard, and I mean we know that a lot of students who go to conservatoire don't end up doing music as their profession. So it's hard to find a way into a sustainable career.
Yeah.
It's easy to push for a year or 4, but you want to do it for your lifetime, don't you? So
yeah. Totally.
That's something that needs a lot of care to set up.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to something more positive, shall we?
Let's do it. Thank you.
You're not just any regular student who goes to lectures, you're very involved with the college. Would you mind sharing what you're passionate about and what you do here briefly, and then we'll go into more detail later?
Yeah. This year I am the welfare officer of the Students' Union. So
congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm part of the team. I'm part of the team who's looking after the student body, giving voice to students, and just being the link between the student body and the governors, the directors of courses. In my case, the wellbeing team. I'm constantly speaking to them. We have meetings, we have informal and formal chats, and I give feedback that I collect, or my personal feedback, or they ask me for opinions before sending emails, before circulating information, things like that. I am passionate about it. I think the student community here, it's such a nice community of people doing what they love and being friendly to each other. So I just wanted to be part of looking after that community. So that's why I postulated for the position, and I got elected. So I think people must have think
so
for it. Yeah.
What was your campaign about at that time? It was around this time last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, and it's surprising because the email about the elections just came out last week.
Yeah,
so
and I thought, it's time already?
It's time to change the team now. But yeah, about this time last year, my campaign had a slogan that was, let's practice well-being. And it started by saying something like, humans are creatures of habit, and we know about it as musicians because we practice things over and over, scales, pieces, arpeggios, we compose. So why are we not practicing well-being in the same way over and over? And we don't have things in place in college to keep reminding everyone to look after themselves. So then that was my slogan, like let's practice well-being, let's make it into a practice. And it was about having the lectures or the modules that happen about well-being, about scheduling. Some of them are only for first years, some of them are only for postgrads, but they just happen once every year. So I wanted to have them more times and for every year study. I'm happy to say that some of those did happen. We had some lectures and we had some external people coming to give talks about Alexander technique, injury prevention, meditation, and yoga. We'll talk about that in a moment. So we had a bit more of it this year. And then what else? Just keeping the conversation going, like not forgetting that well-being is something that you have to sustain rather than something that you achieve and then you're good and you can continue with your life. You have to keep practicing. Keep going.
I think that's a brilliant point, and there's something we tend to forget in our everyday life. It's like, well-being is not about treating yourself a nice thing every now and then. It's very much at the baseline of what you're doing, and that's the habit and practice of well-being is also what I'm trying to advocate here. So we're a pretty good match, aren't we?
Yes.
So is there any particular project you're working on at the moment? Anything you want to share?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, fantastic. What is it?
Thank you for asking that, because yes, the current project that me and the SU president, Sam Austin, we're working on and we're super excited about is a well-being campaign that is called Let's Make It Into a Practice. And I came up with 2 questionnaires, one for staff, one for students, and it's about what does well-being mean to someone. Let's just talk about staff for now. What does well-being mean to administrator staff and also one-to-one tutors, either instrumentalists or composers? How do they prioritize well-being in their lives? And I asked for some tips for mindful practice, for mindful composing, also some physical stretches or physical exercises to keep ourselves on point, inspirational quotes, and I think that's about it. So yeah, we have responses from staff, we have responses from students, and we're coming up with some Instagram posts that will be shared every week as well-being tips of the week, and they will also be shared in the school administrators' emails, the newsletters. The school administrators' newsletters, they will share the well-being tips of the week. So it's a campaign. As I said, this is just for people to have it on their mind and to ask themselves, am I prioritizing my well-being? How am I doing it? And the idea is to keep the dialogue going. Like, they will see a staff member coming up in the post, and they will be talking about their personal life, and they will be talking about their habits and, I don't know, exercising, swimming, running. And I'm really hopeful that will keep the conversation going, and someone will approach them and ask them or tell them, like, hey, thank you for that. I also run, I also swim. Or some people are recommending some things like podcasts, exercises, books, things like that. So
yeah,
having the conversation going, it's about that. Let's make it into our practice.
Fantastic. So is that survey still going?
Yes. So it was sent to the heads of school and certain students, particular students that I just thought their feedback would be valuable. I try to keep like from all schools of study, but if someone is interested in filling it, they can get in touch with me on welfare@rncm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I mean, the work on the SU is just knowing what the students think about, isn't it? So you're just happy about anyone who comes towards you and lets you know what they think and feel.
Of course. Yeah, this campaign, this is the beginning of the campaign, but this is something that I will try and keep going. Like, I will tell the next welfare officer, these surveys are there, this is how the campaign works. We can keep this going, like, this is something that could continue next year.
Definitely. No, I think the RNCM is doing well with well-being in kind of curriculum things, and I think we mentioned the nice atmosphere we have here, but having regular conversations about well-being and just understanding how much of, people of habits we are, and how important that is still something that needs work, and people like you are working on. It's fantastic. Great. I also mentioned you are a co-founder of the Meditation and Yoga Society. Tell me about that. When did you start that, and what is it all about?
Of course. Well, I've been practicing meditation and yoga since 2018. I was really lucky to, when I started, I got teachers that were interested in showing both the physical aspect, but also the spiritual aspect, the meditation, the chanting. I say I was lucky because it was in a gym, in a leisure center. So not every teacher would teach that in a gym, but they were. So yeah, lucky. As I said, during lockdown, it was a big part of my routines, to keep me going, to keep me connected with myself and to what I was doing. So I wasn't doing lessons back then. I wasn't going into practices. It was all on my own, or some YouTube videos or live streams. Back then it was the most common thing. Big tutors, like famous tutors were doing online free sessions, so I was taking those wherever they were happening in the world at whatever time it was. So it became a big part of my life, practicing yoga, and I mainly practice vinyasa. And then meditation, I do breathing exercises and chanting mantras, and positive affirmation meditations. So that was on my own during my first year. During my second year, I was only then having meaningful powerful conversations with other students about their well-being, about their practices, and I remember having a special connection and like meaningful conversations with my friend Jessica Holding. She's the other founder of the Meditation and Yoga Society, and we wanted to just have some space to share these things. So we started by doing a jam night meditation, and we had something like 5 people coming.
What? How did that work?
How did that work? So we just wanted to make some music, but that was relaxing. So like some music meditation. So we call it jam/meditation.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And we just invited our friends. Like back then, it wasn't. We weren't thinking about creating a society or anything. We just wanted to get together and feel good.
Yeah.
So we did, I think, 2 of those, and in both, I did a meditation with them. So I brought my singing bowl and I made them close their eyes, have a few deep breaths, and repeat some soothing words of gratefulness, gratitude and positivity. And from those sessions, we then had the idea, and well, actually, it was not until the summer that I got in touch with Jess, and I told her, hey, I think our conversations have been really nice, and what we've done is just a nice space. I think the student community could benefit from it. More people can just go to those sessions and feel chill for a bit. And I think we could tie it up with yoga. And the idea was always to get external instructors, like certified instructors, to lead the yoga sessions. And then I said I can lead the meditations. And then Jess was up for it, and we proposed the idea with the Students' Union back then. Collected some signatures, and then we had a table. We had a table in the Freshers Fair.
Wow.
So in 2020, what was it? 2022, September 2022, which was my 3rd year. We had a table in the Freshers Fair, and we were collecting emails and people signing up, and we had lots of people interested. Lots of people interested in just finding out what was it about. And I remember I did like a little poster of what were we doing, and it said like yoga, breathing exercises, guided meditation, music meditation, like fun. And we started doing weekly sessions, 1 week on meditation, 1 week on yoga. The first year it was difficult to get external instructors to come, so I was leading some of the yoga sessions as well, but I guess quickly it became that we didn't do much yoga as classes. It was just more like just exploring some positions and mainly meditation. So it was always breathing exercises, meditation, and a bit of movement every now and then. And then this year we continued the work, and again we had lots of people interested. It's always been the case that we had, the first year we had more than 100 emails signed up.
Wow.
But of course, we never had 100 people coming.
Yeah.
That never happened. I think the times we had most people were like 20 people, which was very good still, very good attendance. Mostly we've had, 5 to 10 people coming to the sessions. Some unlucky sessions, it's just been me.
Aww.
But it's fine, this was never about creating it's not like a football team that needs to be needs to train hard. This is whoever is available, whoever can spare some time for themselves, they're welcomed. And that included me, so if I had time for it, no one else was there, but I was there. I was still taking the time for myself, enjoy some 1 hour of meditation. I had the room booked. So whoever showed up, they could benefit.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the big strengths of meditation, especially yoga, is being aware of how connected body and mind are. We tend to forget that when we think about well-being. We either think it's just about psychology and everything that goes with that, which is obviously a big part, or we think when it comes to things like exercising, we do lots of physical work, but there's that connection in between that's, I think, very, very good to explore, because you become aware of the impacts your body and your mind have on each other.
You say it perfectly, Daniel. Yoga is a very good example of the mind and the body working together, and the link between physical and mental well-being. There's this yoga documentary called On Yoga, the Architecture of Peace, and it's not the director, but it's about this photographer called Michael O'Neill, fantastic photographer. And one of the interviews there, it's a guru in London actually, and he says the difference between Eastern and Western philosophy is that Western philosophy is about written work, discussion, more written work, more discussion, so it stays in the mind. But then the Eastern philosophy comes with a practice, whether it's a martial art, yoga, or cultivating an art form that has a philosophical concept behind it, so then the person who learns it has the physical experience of the philosophy, so they can feel it, they can become it, and that is one of the principal differences. And that's what yoga does. You have a concept behind positions, you have a concept behind a way of breathing, a way of just taking time to just be, and you feel it. So it's the connection, it's the connection between mind and body, and of course spirit, if you get to that place. Yeah.
There was just something that reminded me of when you said just taking time to be.
Yeah.
Reminded me of what I was talking earlier on the podcast about engagement, living in the present moment. I think that's something yoga and meditation are also really, really useful for, because it just trains you to direct your thoughts on the present moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously we've got a brilliant example of engagement and how to practice it for well-being in meditation and yoga, but it's kind of tricky to bring into our daily life as music students sometimes, isn't it? What do you do to keep that within your routine?
Yeah, it is definitely hard, and it's a different thing. I think it's because when making music, we're engaging different parts of the brain, right? We're engaging the creative side, repetition in terms of just playing a piece from memory, and then the physicality of the instrument, which can be really tiny movements or bigger movements, depending on the instrument. So if you're a percussionist, you would use more arms, more feet if you're a drummer, than if you're, let's say, a euphonium player.
I don't use my feet at all.
You don't use your certainly as a composer as well, my work is pretty much in the head rather than in the body. So a way of keeping engagement and connecting mind and body in my practice is the Pomodoro technique, which is taking a chunk of time to do focused work, and then a smaller time of break. And so the way I do it is I do 25 or 30 minutes of composing, and I fully focus on that, or I try my best to fully focus on that, knowing that the time is gonna run out, and then I take 5 or 10 minutes of just playing, but playing not an instrument, literally playing with toys. I like juggling balls.
Yeah, you showed me too earlier. Really fascinating.
Yeah, they're always in my bag. So I pass from being in the head in my composition time, making decisions, which is composing, to being in the body and playing. So my mind is totally relaxed. I'm just juggling, throwing balls, or doing contact juggling. And that lets my brain relax so much. And I'm also moving around the room. I'm constantly picking up the balls because I keep they keep falling. So you're just bending over and picking them up, so you're in the body. And then my brain in 5 minutes, it's surprising how 5 minutes they just are so long if you're having fun. I've sadly done the comparison of 5 minutes of juggling and 5 minutes of, let's say, Instagram. Instagram just goes flying. Those 5 minutes are not enough. I just want to keep going. But then with juggling, I'm having fun and I'm already like tired of picking up the balls, and there's 2 minutes left in the timer, you know. So it's like, wow, I could do so much in these 5 minutes. So being in the body, Pomodoro technique with juggling, would recommend.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes we book a practice slot of an hour or 2 hours and we just keep playing the instrument.
For the whole 2 hours.
Yeah, we sometimes do.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot, and it's not necessarily healthy for both the physical side and the mental side of it.
Yeah.
So I think the recommendation, if you're, well, a fan of the Pomodoro technique, to use that, or if you don't relate to that concept but still taking breaks and doing some physical movement during that break, is just so helpful for the whole of your well-being.
Totally, yeah. Even if it's just standing up if you're sitting, or doing some stretches, doing some breaths, going into the body. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. To end our conversation, I asked you to bring 6 tips for well-being, and maybe with a focus on engagement, what we talked about. And I saw you prepared a fantastic list, so I'm excited to hear those.
Yeah, so these are things that work for me. I know that everyone works different, and I really hope that someone can benefit from these practices too. So first in the list, of course, breathing exercises. For me, breathing exercises are just the best way of changing my brain mindset. So my mindset and also the brain chemistry. Sorry, I said that weirdly. Yeah, changing my mindset and changing my brain chemistry. So, which breathing exercises? I keep talking about the Wim Hof method. That one is just nice. It feels good. In a nutshell, what does it mean? You do either 30 or 40 deep breaths, and then you retain breath. You retain the breath without any air inside of the lungs, and you hold it. Then you fully full. I don't know what I'm saying. You fully inhale, and you retain the air inside of the lungs, and then you exhale. 2 rounds of that, and I can tell you, your brain will be different. Your brain will feel something's changed, and it's just for the better. It's always for the better. Breathing exercises like that one. There's also a yogi pranayama, which is a nadi sadhana, and it's alternating the inhalation and the exhalation on each nostril. So you inhale on your left nostril, you change, you exhale on the right nostril, you inhale on the right, change, exhale on the left. And I'm doing it now just to
It's gonna be interesting if we can hear that on the recording.
exactly. And that is a cleansing technique. That's for relaxing. It's for balancing both hemispheres of the brain and the body as well. You're inhaling and exhaling on your right and your left, so you're balancing your body. Then there's also the box breathing technique, where you inhale and you set an amount of time. It could be 5 seconds, it could be 3, 4, whatever. You retain the air for the same amount, you exhale in the same amount of time, you retain without breath, same amount, and it's a little square, and you keep going. So those 3 exercises, great. Whatever you're doing, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're in a practice room, if you're just getting ready to practice, getting ready to compose, ready for bed, ready for the day, anytime, just breathe. That's good stuff. Then, I've mentioned already the Pomodoro technique with something fun in the breaks. So for me, it just works short time, 20, 25, 30 minutes tops. I just can't keep focused in composition for longer. I just start drifting away. Maybe for other people, they can do 1 hour long Pomodoros, and that's fine. Then a classic, go for a walk. Go for a little walk.
Oh yeah. Especially, look, it's so sunny today.
It's sunny
It's getting easier to motivate yourself to go outside, so do it.
Just do it whenever you can. And then my little extra, I'm going for a walk, is whenever I can, if I find a nice patch of green, I just go barefoot on the grass for a bit, literally just for a few minutes, and that just feels nice.
Yeah.
It's cool. Again, it gets you into the body, you feel grounded, and there's some electromagnetic science behind it as well, but it just feels nice. That's as far as I can.
Yeah.
Okay, now this one is to save you from stressing out, to save you time, and to make sure that you are eating your greens. Prepare food in advance. It could be just prepare your sandwich for lunchtime, and that way you have your own sandwich. You don't have to get the meal deal. It will save you time, and it will taste much better, I can tell. It could also be prepare some, what's it called, like batch cooking or something, so that you have meals ready for the week whenever you don't have time to eat, to prepare food. Maybe it will be a breakfast, maybe it will be a dinner. You just have it ready. You save time, you make sure that you're eating what you want to rather than what you have at hand. So prepare your food in advance. Then this one is about meditation or introspection. Ask yourself the right questions. Keep asking yourself questions. In my opinion, that's the only way to get there, is to get somewhere, is if you know what you're looking for. So what questions? What are my priorities? Where do I want to go? And then once you know that, looking at what you're doing in that moment, and ask yourself, where is this attitude or this activity taking me? Is it taking me where I want to go, or is it not? That comes from that philosophy of asking yourself, is the things or the things that surround me aligned to the person I want to be, to the place I want to go? And if not, make something about it. And finally, and this one is very special in my heart, is gratitude. Gratitude practices, gratitude affirmations. I do it before going to bed or when waking up, just being grateful for being alive, for being studying, whatever is around you, for your family, for your friends, for your job. Just being grateful for what you are and what you have will most likely make you feel happy in your life, better about where you stand, and focus on what you have and what you are rather than what you don't have or what you're not.
Those are fantastic. Thank you so much. And thanks for the whole interview, Emilio.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for having me. This has been a pleasure. And yeah, remember that as for at least this year, I'm still available for anyone as your welfare officer. Just email me at welfare@rncm.ac.uk and I'm there for you.
Get in touch with Emilio and let's listen to the rest of his piece.
Thank you. I close my eyes to see. The three pillars stand before me. The moon is a cycle, and so am I, making my way from darkness to light.
In the last part of this episode, I want to share some of my own well-being experiences over the last couple of weeks and observations I made. As I mentioned, we're just finishing the Easter holidays here at the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester, which meant that I had more free time, and although I had a lot of assignments to do and other tasks I didn't manage in the last couple of weeks of the term, I did have more free time, and it definitely improved with being quite stressed before it ended. So, well, they're just basic principles of well-being that I managed to focus more on, which are sleep, getting more sleep because I didn't have lots on in the evenings, and I managed to have more off time and relaxing activities in the evening. Then food, I had more time to cook nice meals for myself and take care of myself. Another thing that especially the ones of you who live in the UK will have noticed is the weather. So the last, 1.5 weeks we had a couple of sunny days, and it never happens in Manchester. This was such a big well-being booster, and I think most of you can agree with me. Now, why does it feel so good? Obviously, the sunlight itself is good for well-being because it has impact on our nervous system and our hormone system, but there are also a lot of other activities, in particular sunlight comes along with. So we exercise more, we move, and we socialize more because, we don't want to just stay in bed and do nothing. But especially with those, Pride days being quite rare in April, what can we take away from this? It may not be sunny every day, but we can still exercise, we can still socialize, and that way take care of ourselves, which is really important. To wrap up, let me summarize what we've been talking about in this episode of Well Tempered. The featured PERMA letter of the month was E for engagement, and engagement is about being in the present moment, which I shared my experiences in my student life. We then had the fantastic interview guest of Emilio, who spoke about his work on the RNCM Students' Union, but also about meditation and yoga, which are great for well-being and I would definitely recommend to try out. I then shared about my own well-being experiences in the last couple of weeks, and I think going away from this, Emilio's idea of asking yourself the right questions is really helpful. So, how engaged am I in what I'm doing? How's my well-being generally? What do I want to do in the next couple of weeks? Well, anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing now. Thanks again for listening. I hope you have a lovely time and see you soon.